Hello everyone, good morning from Australia and good afternoon and good night from anywhere else in the world. Good to see you all guys here. We're just waiting on Eric. Let me just add him. All right, so while we are waiting for Eric, thank you for everyone who has sent through all the questions. So we have a whole bunch of questions everyone sent through for Eric, the broomstick man himself. Love your work, man. But in the meanwhile, if you guys have any further question, feel free to let me know. Or just type it in the comment section. And yeah, we'll pass the questions on to Eric and Ernie.
What's up, man?
We're on.
How you doing?
We are on. We're great, man. We're great. So good to have you. Dr. Ernie's here as well. How you doing, man? So nice to finally meet you guys. So nice to finally meet you guys. I'm guessing it's roughly about 5 p.m. in Chicago there?
Yeah, it's 5 right now.
Awesome. So we got a whole bunch of guys joined up and, a whole bunch of people asking you a fair few questions. So before we get started, did you guys have anything to say to, especially I think it looks like more of an Australian crowd than American crowd? Did you want to have anything to say before we get started?
No, we can get into the questions right away, man.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. For sure. A brief introduction. I'm Ernie Sr. This is my son, Eric.
Of course.
Hopefully they know who we are. But if not, any questions, we'd be more than happy to answer. Yeah,
for
sure.
Man, look, I don't think you guys need any introduction. You are the strongest lifting family in the world. So the Lilliebridge method has made so many people do amazing things. Even as a rehab professional and a coach, like the Lilliebridge method was the game changer for me to understand the way you guys do that. And we're going to get into that in a minute. But before we get started, let's start with powerlifting. Why powerlifting? What got you guys into powerlifting?
Well, I'll go first. Well, I got into powerlifting obviously because of my dad. I've been around powerlifting since I was a kid, as long as I can remember. Going to his competitions when I was like 2, 3, 4 years old. But I didn't take interest in powerlifting until later on in my life, early teenage years. And the main thing that got me into powerlifting was I was in wrestling at the time. So I was in wrestling when I was 13 years old. This would have been 7th grade in middle school.
Right.
And so that season of wrestling, I didn't do so well. I lost a lot of my matches. And one of the things that really wanted me to get into powerlifting was I wanted to come back in the next season and beat all my opponents. And so I asked my dad to train me so that I can get stronger to come back the next season and beat everyone, which, long story short, he trained me for a year. I came back, won all my matches, won the tournaments. And then after that, I decided to stop wrestling and I just straight powerlifting full time. And so I've been hooked ever since. Did my first competition at 14 years old. And I've done like 50 something competitions since then. So, or more than 50.
Yeah.
So,
sure.
Yeah, that's mine. And you did?
How I got into it?
You're the patriarch, man. So you probably started the whole thing.
I'm from Chicago, grew up in a rough neighborhood. And, just be bigger and stronger was a main thing. Not so much for intimidation, just so you could take care of yourself. Did martial arts, a lot of that stuff too, but the powerlifting, it has it carries a lot with it, with just the presence. You look big and strong, people will leave you alone for the most part, and it works. So that was my thing. I was always into strength, not for aesthetics. It was always to function, always for strength. And I got in it at 14 as well. I was a little 165er back when I started back in 1986. That was my first competition. And I've done over 200 competitions, way over. I don't even count anymore. I retired in 2016, just too old, just too beat up, too many joint problems, but been all over the world, traveled. It's been a great experience. Powerlifting has been just a godsend. It's just an amazing sport, and the brotherhood of the iron and everyone you meet and the places you get to go. It's just been great. Wouldn't have picked anything else. Not at all. Well, short, so I can't do strongman,
right?
And so don't have the athleticism for that. But powerlifting hit the spot for sure.
That's right. So it's one of those things. Like there are quite a few different strength sports, such as Olympic lifting, powerlifting, strongman, even CrossFit, if you want to consider that as a strength sport these days.
But they didn't even exist back then. Not even strongman. Strongman came about in the late 70s, but it was so unregulated, so to speak. It was every event was different. Every year was something different.
Right.
Now it's completely structured. But again, taller, larger individuals usually have a big advantage over the smaller, stronger guy. Even though it is strongman, some of the stronger, shorter individuals don't stand a chance against the taller ones just for leverage reasons. Where powerlifting, it's a static. I mean, you're just stationary, not static, but you're stationary. So it's a lot easier to just be judged on one lift versus lifting it.
Having to be athletic.
Yeah, athletic. Yeah. Just it was always the way to go for me, and it's a very easy way to indicate that you're making progress because you're able to add more weight to the bar. It's very cut and dry, very, very instantaneous gratification for knowing that your efforts are actually being utilized and making progress, for sure.
That's amazing. So speaking of, adding numbers to the bar, for me personally, like I said, the Lilliebridge method was the game changer. So when I bought the book, the ebook, and started learning about the methods, the way the programming was done, I've gone through so many of you guys' lifting videos and instructional videos. But before I say what Lilliebridge method is, I think it's best you guys explain what is the Lilliebridge method. Like, I have my own understanding, but what is the Lilliebridge method?
The Lilliebridge method, well, it's just what we've done, and it's not from copying anyone else. It's totally from years and years of trial and error, and figuring out what works. And anyone can get, like, a broken clock is right twice a day, depending on what time you use. But in powerlifting, or when you do something and you see an improvement, you have to find out what it was. So it has to be duplicatable and repeatable. And that's how you make progress, not just haphazard. So started documenting all the training and through trial and error, what works, what didn't. And going through like old powerlifting magazines or talking to other lifters, it's pretty much just word of mouth. And the programs and techniques that they were using, I don't want to say that they were not good, but there was a ton of room for improvement. There's a huge discrepancy or disparity between formal and practical. And sometimes it's very difficult to blend or know which one is the correct one to do. Practical is always the gym bros, what they're doing. Formal is the guy in the white lab coat that doesn't have any muscle. But somewhere in between is the key to making it work and fitting it together. And through, again, years and years and years of trial and error, figured out what was the best way. Where most training is pretty consistent, it's more so with the rest intervals involved and the frequency of the movements, where there's some that train each body part or each movement a couple times a week. We were actually at the upper levels of doing it every other week. The recovery was the key to making the big increases in the total. And by far, even more important than the strength is the technique. Form and technique outweigh strength every single time, without a doubt. Obviously, strength is important, but it's so easy to be misguided and misdirected, and it usually leads to injury very, very quickly, doing something incorrectly. And the stronger you are, you're just going to get hurt that much sooner because you're doing it wrong. And maybe wrong is not the correct term for it, but yeah, I guess it is. And I hate to be disrespectful saying it like that. Because there are so many more ways of doing it, and there's so many different body types and so on and so forth. But looking at the body mechanics of it, that's where we really were able to find the shortcomings. Like every seminar we've ever put on, and I don't mean it in a disrespectful or an arrogant way, but everyone has increased their lifts. Everyone. And it's not because they got stronger. We don't have a magic wand. We're fixing their technique. We're giving the strength the opportunity to flow versus being bound up or misdirected. That's the key. So the Lilliebridge training method is so much more than just a program. It's all the little pieces in between. For years, Eric and my other son, Ernie, though they do the online coaching, I only do in person because to me, I need to see the person to fix their movements. It's 100% proactive, not reactive. I can watch a video, tell me what I did wrong. Oh, that's great, but it's already over with. Versus seeing them perform a movement, telling them what to do to correct it, and then watching it progress. So it's, I guess that's it in a nutshell, or kind of. It's technique, form and technique. If you do anything, you do 1,000 push-ups or whatever, you're going to get stronger. There's no doubt about it. Getting strong is more or less the easy part. Perfecting form and technique takes years and years and years. And some people, it's just extremely difficult, depending upon the specific body types. Like tall, thin, probably a good deadlifter. Short arms, probably going to be a good bencher. You know what I mean? There's
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
simple ways to. I'm not saying that everyone can't do it, but there's certain body types that are more prone to being able to make quick advances versus other ones need a little bit more. So having a cookie cutter program, 3 sets of 5, blah, 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 it means nothing. If your form is incorrect and you're performing it with bad technique, it makes no difference. So the actual programming in the sense of that is not where our programming is any better or different than anyone else's. It's with the emphasis on form and technique, and really, really capitalizing and working on your weaknesses to make you a better lifter versus always trying to perform your strengths, which is great without a doubt, but it's fixing the weaknesses that allow you to progress and go farther. Like with strength, there's a limitation. You're only going to lift as much as your technique allows you. Being stronger is not necessarily going to make you lift more weight. If your technique is poor and your form is incorrect, you're just going to get in trouble sooner or faster. Whereas if your form and technique are correct, there's no limit to how much more strength you can introduce to it, if that makes any sense.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
So,
well, before I get my 2 bits in,
I'm
Zahir said
sorry. I tend to ramble
he's
on
waiting
a lot,
for you to
so
come back.
if I keep talking, just shut me down.
Oh, no. Dude, these are gems, and I think this voice needs to be heard. So what I was saying before, like Zahir made a comment about Eric. He's waiting for him to come back. So
Yeah, I saw that.
so my interpretation of what he just said, it's pretty much the same. Rest and recovery, it's one of the most important part of any sport, not just strength sport.
Absolutely.
You don't get strong when you're training, you get strong when you're resting and when you're recovering with the right method.
Absolutely.
The second part where we kind of, this new generation, I would say, of clinicians, lifters, they have kind of gone 2 different directions, is form and technique doesn't matter. You can lift with anything and your body will eventually adapt. Now, I work with a lot of high-level lifters and professionals in different sports. I have not met one person who does things with poor form or incorrect technique and they did not get injured. It's always the common denominator. Now, when we're saying, and something else that you mentioned about the biomechanics of the person, right? It's not necessarily that that technique means there's one list of things and everybody should fit into that box. It means this is your biomechanical structure. These are your physiological, attributes we have, and how can we put that into a specific pattern? So it's an arc, like you fall within that arc.
Absolutely.
It's when you go outside of that arc, that's when you start getting injured and when you start getting, all these problems.
For sure.
So that's something I have learned in my rehab career as a rehab professional and in my own injuries as well. You can get really strong really quick.
Oh, without
but
a
you
doubt.
can end up in the hospital the next day.
Yeah. Yeah, we again, strength, I know that powerlifting is primarily would be listed or categorized as a strength sport, and without a doubt it is. But strength being very easily manipulated and increased on a short order, it's 100% form and technique that's going to take you to the next level. Getting stronger is the least important component because it's the easiest to manipulate. And with PEDs or whatever the case is, it's so easy to get strong. That's not. It's how to perform the movements correctly, and those are the keys to putting up the big numbers and doing it repeatably and doing it safely. That's the key. That's where our techniques are. I don't want to call superior, but different than everyone else's. Where you'll hear, deadlift, just grip and rip. No, no. There's 1,000 components before you ever leave the ground. It's like launching the space shuttle. A to B, B to C, C to D. There's a complete checklist before you engage and initiate the lift. And those are the little pieces to make it complete. Just going out there and just trying to utilize brute strength, it's never going to exceed someone who has technique. Never. It's never going to happen. Oh, well, I take that back. Maybe if there was some giant out there, but we've never seen it. And there's a lot of people with tremendous potential, but just with poor technique. And in any sport, I'm sure you know, even the top athletes, the Michael Jordans of the world, he's arguably the best player. He had coaches. Every game, there's someone critiquing his form and technique, how to make him a better player. Even though he's the best, there's always room for improvement, or there's something that was done incorrectly that needs to be addressed. So with our athletes, everything is 100% real time. It's not anything reactive. Look at a video and fix it. No, it's all before the movement is done. This is what you need to correct. This is what you need to work on. These are the accessory movements that are going to increase your main movement and make you a better lifter and safer, and be able to utilize that strength. That's the key component that most don't understand is the utilization of the strength. That's the absolute key. Without it, it means nothing. Being big and strong, it doesn't translate into bigger numbers, not necessarily.
Correct. And you see so many of these like young guys, they're putting up these big numbers. And then you go, and my feedback or my criticism to that is, let's see where you end up in 2 years' time.
Sure.
And 90% of those guys, you never hear from them. 18 months, 2 years down the track, oh, I'm just doing some bodybuilding kind of stuff. And
For
whatever.
sure.
But you know what happened there, right? You just got really strong, really quick, irrespective of any other accessory work, anything else, form, technique, you just disregarded all those things. You just got really strong because you're young.
Sure.
So you have a lot of money in your body bank to pull from, but then eventually that money runs out.
Absolutely. What we like to say, refer to as like hitting the wall, meaning your strength is only going to be utilized to the limit of your technique and form. And adding more strength to poor technique and poor form does not translate into lifting more numbers. Zero. That doesn't matter how strong you are. Your leverages are bad, your form is bad, your technique is bad. It doesn't matter how much stronger you get, you're never going to lift any more weight. You're just going to continue on the path of misguiding that strength and loading the wrong muscles and end up getting hurt very, very quickly. Very quickly.
All right. I'm so glad to hear that live from you guys. And I think, again, that voice needs to be heard, because I have not come across anyone who's at the pinnacle of their sport, irrespective of what the sport is, saying technique and form doesn't matter. But we're going to move on to our next question. So
Sure.
I'll start with Eric. So we got squat, bench, and deadlift. What is your favorite one of the three?
Definitely not bench.
Trust me, we're going to make you love bench.
Yeah. No, it used to be deadlift when I was younger, but as my squat got stronger, I ended up just falling in love with squatting a lot more than deadlifting. But it's really hard for me to pick and choose, like, oh, I love this one more. I love them both, you know? They're all there for a reason. But yeah, definitely squats, especially when I switched over from high bar to low bar. That's when my squat really took off. So yeah, definitely squats, 100%. Again, mainly because it's my best lift. So yeah.
Out of curiosity, what made you change your change your technique in squat from high bar to low bar?
It became hard to balance the weight up on my traps. So having the bar up on my traps, obviously it's high bar for myself, but having the bar up on my traps, the bar is in a much smaller portion of my back versus being low bar. It's displaced a lot better. So I had a lot of balance issues when I was getting up to like the 400 kilo plus high bar.
Yeah,
and a lot of the time I'd lose my balance, and the lift would just go to shit, mainly because of the balance issue and the bar whip as well. So when I switched from high bar to low bar, this would have been almost 10 years ago now. I did high bar for about 9, 10, and then I did low bar since 2013.
Yeah, 2013.
That's when I switched. The first month or so, it took a while to get that form and technique down. But within 2 months, I was doing my old max high bar for a triple, low bar.
Yeah.
So I was squatting on 400 for a single, and then I was doing 400 for a triple 2 months later. So my squat increased that much just from switching from high bar to low bar and learning that technique. And yeah, that's what really took my squat to the next level.
Right. So once again, technique matters, right?
Absolutely.
Of course. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Ernie, what's your favorite lift?
I like them all, but
Again, not the bench.
yeah, no, we're crappy benchers. A 250 bench is like everyone's doing that these days. That was my best too. Same squat, and the reason being is the squat is something that probably I could get 90% of the population to be just world-class squatters. It's something that's so natural to do. Bench pressing is not for everybody, and deadlifting is definitely not for everybody. I mean, at the upper level, like to hit big world-class numbers. Though those two movements are going to be, for the most part, very body type selective. Versus squatting, I can make just about anybody, 9 out of 10 people, I can turn into world-class squatters without a doubt. And the strength that you gain and the techniques you gain from squatting translate into the other movements as well. Well, 100%. Versus if you squat heavy, you're gonna pull big. But if you pull big, doesn't mean you're gonna squat heavy. Not at all. There's no correlation. It's a half movement. It just is. It's a hinge movement. Versus squatting is a full body movement, and it makes everything stronger, especially the core. There's no downside to squatting. And that's just my humble opinion.
So I was
Squatting.
say, so from experience, have you found squat has a better carry over to deadlift versus deadlift has a better carry over to squat?
100%. 100%. Yes. Now again, you have to. So from what we've seen, generalization out of the three movements, squat, bench, and deadlift, you could take people off the street that never even saw powerlifting, and the deadlift is the easiest one for them to just get in there and perform. Just grab the bar, pick it up. Versus squatting is very funky, and benching is not for everybody, especially with females being primarily stronger lower bodied athletes off the bat. However, as time goes on, the deadlift is by far the absolute most difficult and technical movement to master. It's the easiest to initially learn, but by far the hardest to actually master. It's so difficult. And as you gain strength and your body proportions start to change, your leverages start to change. And your leverages change everything. If you're already a pivotal deadlifter where your leverages are like really right at the line, and you gain a little bit of size or mass, your shoulders get wider, it makes your arms shorter. So you're pulling the weight a larger distance. You get thicker, your center of gravity change. Now you have to get your hips closer to the bar. There's so many little things that make the deadlift just an absolute technical disaster to master it.
Yeah, like even when I put on body weight, even a few kilos, I have to change my technique a little bit.
For sure.
I have to widen my stance a little bit, my grip a little bit. And yeah, I can notice it right away. Just a few kilos of body weight, my leverages change. So
again, and that's at people that are at that pivotal level. If you already have the genetics and you have the great leverages, then deadlifting is for you. But that's a very small proportion of the mass population, for sure, that have the perfect torso to lower extremity ratio, the longer arms, and are able to perform the movement correctly. It's a very, very small portion of the population. Where squatting, just about everyone can do it. Again, there's certain people with real long femurs. It makes it a little bit more difficult, but you can always widen your stance and get the leverages where you need them to be. I haven't had anyone yet that didn't become a great squatter versus deadlifting. And the other thing with deadlift is the size of your hand. Being all the strength in the world, if you got small hands, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
And pulling with straps in this sport is a big no-no. So we are completely against lifting with straps at all costs. You have to build up your grip strength. And doing a flip grip, it's very difficult. It just puts your body in an unnatural position with the pronated and supinated positions. It just, one shoulder's up, one shoulder's down. It takes a lot of time to really finesse it and get the movement correctly. And you can appreciate when you see a really good deadlifter, like, wow, that was just beautiful. when the technique is just so sharp and it's like, wow, it moves so fluid and so smoothly. That's a true master versus, someone just cat backing it or hunched over, they're on their toes. And
see it all the time.
yeah, see it all the time.
Yeah, it's
like you could have done
like
so
a
much
fishing
more.
rod. It's like bending all the way up and down. You just go, I don't know how long you're going to be able to do that for.
Not long. You're going to blow your back out for sure.
Hey, we're going to move on to our next question. So before I get to the next question, I'll give you a bit of a context for the next question. So we live in the day and age of social media. So there's a lot of young powerlifting coaches who need a lot of content for their social media presence. And one thing that I see, which is a little bit unfortunate, they get their athletes to compete way too many times a year, like 4 or 5 times a year. And just because they need those contents to put on their social media
for sure
to get more coaching clients. And Eric and I, we had this conversation in private, but I think the whole group who has joined us would benefit from this. Is what is the right number of competition should someone do per year? And I'm assuming it changes depending on if somebody's a beginner versus an advanced lifter.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Like when I first started, I competed like 4 or 5 times a year.
Sure.
For like the first few years, and it was more to just gain the experience. Obviously, the format technique was worked on way before that, but it's more just to gain the experience on the platform. But as I got stronger, that reduced significantly. That was down to like 3 a year, then to 2 a year, then literally just 1 a year. Like towards the end of my powerlifting career, when I competed, 5+ years ago, it was one a year.
Yeah.
Like one big comp a year.
Sure.
And yeah, it's mainly due to the fact that, you get to that strength level, you're battling injuries. Like it's inevitable. It happens.
Absolutely.
At the highest level, it always happens. No matter how good you train or how good you recover, you're going to get injured at some point. So
if you just looked at it mathematically, just really basically, if you were going to run a 12-week cycle of building, peaking, and getting ready, that puts you at 4 a year with no downtime.
Yeah, you're
think about it.
Training cycle in the training. Yeah.
So going above 4, you better be getting paid for it or really be sharp and know your game. For the last couple of years of our careers, we were competing up to 10, 12 times a year, but that's how we got paid. And it wasn't necessarily to go out there to bump the total. It's just to get a win. So, we're not pushing ourselves to 100% every time. If your goal is to go out there and improve and hit big numbers, in the beginning, you need the experience of doing so, and maybe 4 a year is acceptable. And it all depends on what your strength and technique level is and what you're trying to gain from it. But with keeping the recovery factor in mind and going out there to make an improvement versus just going out there just for the hell of it, I think 4 is like a pretty big number. Probably 2 would be more like it. Seriously.
Yeah.
If you two big competitions a year is probably pretty good for most people.
I was gonna say the same, like 2 a year, because then you could do one training cycle for 10, 12 weeks, do your comp, do an off-season cycle for maybe 10, 12 weeks, and then you just cycle it through. And by the time by the end, you're already at the end of the year.
Exactly.
It goes by so fast.
10 to 12 weeks of meet prep followed by 10 to 12 weeks of rehab, because again, squatting 100 pounds 10 times is 1,000. Well, it's not the same as squatting 1,000 pounds one time. The loads on your body are exponentially higher. It's more than a factor of 10. It's exponential. So trying to rest, recover, and be able to grow from that is the key. And at the same time, not get injured. And unlike most things in life, the farther you go, the better you get, the chances of getting injured are less. Not so in powerlifting. The stronger you get and the longer you've been doing it, the greater your odds are of getting injured, just because of the weights being involved. The slope becomes slipperier. The higher you go on the ladder, the much greater you are being exposed to injury. Your technique must be that much sharper. Your form must be impeccable. And a small improper movement could easily become a career-ending venture. One wrong move and you could blow something out. Versus a newer person just starting, they're not really strong enough to create that much damage, so to speak. And I don't mean it disrespectfully, but the stronger you are, the potential of injury is so much greater, so much greater. So it's that much more important to really pick your battles wisely and you know, come out with, if you're going to come out with the guns blazing, you better be able to back it up. And yeah, so we really, 2 a year, 1 to 2 a year, big meets. If you wanted to do like a primer, his brother is Ernie, he probably does 3 or 4 a year, same, 2 big ones, 2 little ones, and they're just warm-up meets. It's not even trying to hit big numbers, just to see where you are. And because you get, like what they say from boxers, ring rust. You haven't been in the platform, you kind of lose your placing. So if you keep it in that perspective, I would say 2 to 4 a year. One to 4, something like that. Maybe a beginner could do a few more just to get the experience. Yep. But you have to know what your goals are. Why are you doing this? What is the reason? And that would have to be on an individual basis. Doing it just to do it, there's really not a point. Not to me, but on an individual basis. If they so had the reason to compete more, again, that's where we put our recommendations, sir.
Right.
So somewhere in that 2 to 4 range.
Yeah.
For sure.
And the reason I gave the context before, again, I live in the world of rehab primarily, and I get to see so many young lifters getting injured because they just go from comp to comp to comp, and I go through their programming, and it is an insane amount of lifting they have to go through to keep doing these comps. And you ask them, and their numbers from, let's say, a year ago is actually less. Well, then it's not really serving the purpose of you getting strong in a powerlifting comp. You're just showing up for the sake of showing up. Yes. And at the end of the day, it's a competition. You go there to compete, whether it's a big meet or a small meet. Again, in any other sport, I have never met anyone who just shows up for the, you know. For sure. I couldn't agree with you more, 100%. There has to be a purpose or a reason for why you're doing it. If you're just doing it just for the sake of doing it, that's not a good reason. It's you're just going to increase your chances of getting hurt or have a whole lot of money to throw away, because meet preps are not cheap. Exactly. It takes quite a bit. Yep. It does. A lot of food, a lot of training, a lot of supplements. It just does. So we typically run a 12 to 16 week peaking cycle, somewhere in that range. It could be as low as 10 depending on the lifter, but somewhere in that range. So again, just mathematically, you're looking at a maximum of 4, more realistically 2. Yeah. And the competition is the opportunity to show off what you've learned and what you've gained versus the last one. If you're just competing against yourself versus competing against another individual, if you haven't made those strides in progress, is there really a point of doing it? And again, that's an individual thing, and I mean no one any disrespect, but the whole idea of competing is going out there to put up a bigger number than you did the last time, and potentially going against another individual or individuals that you're trying to beat and move up in the ranking system, for sure. And it's a law of diminishing returns doing too many. Exactly. For sure. Exactly. So I think we already touched on how important rest and recovery is, but going back to the Lilliebridge method, how do you program rest and recovery in your program? Well, we'll go ahead if you want. I'm sorry to cut in.
Yeah, it's already programmed into the program itself because it's less training days and more rest days. So there's 3 training days per week. You could do 4 if you wanted to split the squat and deadlift, but I prefer not to. It works better to combine them together. Yeah. So it's 3 training days and 4 rest days. So you right off the bat, there's more rest days than there are training days. And that in itself helps with the peaking and the recovery tremendously, especially as you're getting stronger throughout that peaking cycle towards the end. Obviously, towards the end, there's a proper deload and rest week before a competition or testing your new maxes. But yeah, 4 rest days, 3 training days. That's worked great for me for many years. Definitely. And I haven't had a reason to change it, you know.
And just to add to that, one of the main components where ours is different is it's individualized to that person, meaning the core movements are the same, obviously, squat, bench, deadlift, but it's all the accessory movements that are based upon that individual's needs that are going to make them a better lifter. Not everyone gets the same programming. It's not cookie cutter, other than, again, the 3 basic movements. But for someone that is having difficulty deadlifting. Well, there might be a whole lot of extra hamstring work involved, or extra core work involved, or grip work involved versus another individual. So it's the accessory movements that make the big difference in trying to improve the main movements. The accessory movements are only there to improve the main movement. That's it. It's not for about aesthetics. It's about functionality, 100%. And whatever problems you have coming into it, those obviously need to be addressed. And it's a game where less is more, in the sense that you can overdo it and overtrain very, very quickly.
Yeah.
We'll do shorter movements, or the same movement with a very, very submaximal weight to improve form and technique. But as it progresses, the weights increase, and with the increase of weight is an increase in rest periods as well. So as the cycle starts to progress, the training becomes more intense, the weights start to go up, the rest intervals increase to compensate for that. If you're not making progress on a week-to-week basis, then something's wrong. You should be able to calculate and be able to achieve the numbers that your body's going to tell you right away. If you're able to perform the movement, then everything is well. If you miss the movement and you did all the proper stuff, then you're probably overtraining. This is powerlifting. It's not, you're not going to bench 3 times a week or squat 3 times a week, or no, and make any kind of progress. Maybe in the beginning, again, a total beginner that's never touched a weight. But at the higher levels, absolutely not. No. We've cut so many people back, way back, and then just watch their numbers skyrocket because of that. The rest and recovery is absolutely key. And recovery more so than just the rest, especially if you're nursing an injury. And, most guys are hardhead. They don't realize that there's a problem until it's really far, and it's just obvious.
A problem until it becomes a problem.
Yes. It becomes a problem. Yes. So nipping that stuff in the bud and staying proactive is always the key. 100% proactive, always. Reactive, you've already missed the bus, man. It's already over with.
And there's so much wisdom in what you just said, being proactive versus reactive. And that has, again, another takeaway from the Lilliebridge method for myself. And something else, I came across with the Lilliebridge method, again, it worked really well with every athlete that I have worked. And it's not just limited to powerlifting, because I work with a whole bunch of different sports, which is squat heavy one week and then deadlift heavy the next week. The week that you're deadlifting heavy, you're squatting at a lighter weight.
Yes.
Can you explain or elaborate that a little bit more?
Well, again, it depends on the individual. So for the most part, it's in rotation for heavy squat, heavy deadlift. And on the heavy squat day, they would be followed with light deadlifts. And then on the following week would be heavy deadlifts followed by light squats. But that would probably be for about 50% of the people. But as you progress and you start hitting some really, really serious numbers, again, you have to cut back. By keeping it on doing the movements at least once a week, you always have the opportunity to work on form and technique. Once you get to the top and you've already mastered the movements, now you're really emphasizing on putting that strength into the bar. And any movement that is unnecessary is counterproductive. So it's extremely high weights, low reps to maximize your output on the platform. Getting up to that point, it could be a different series depending upon the individual. So they have the frequency of at least performing each movement once a week. So the familiarity is still there, and they're able to work on the technique without taxing the muscle to the point of fatigue, and they're still able to recover for the next major lifting session. But again, like for Eric, he's squatting heavy, and then he'll do his light squats and pause squats after. He'll do his heavy deadlifts, and then after that he would do his deficit deadlifts after. But that's him, and everyone is different. Again, it's on an individual basis of where your strengths and weaknesses are, your age, your mobility. There's so many factors that go into that. It's not a cookie cutter program. It's 100% based on that individual. What does that individual need for improvement?
It's funny because when I tell people about my training, they think that I'm lying. I tell them I squat once every 2 weeks. I'm like, no, that's literally what I do.
Yeah.
I got to that point where I made the transition where I was doing squats and deadlifts in the same day every week. But then I stopped doing that, and I started doing just squats one week, and then just deadlifts the next week, and I'm rotating them. So I do a squat session, deadlift session twice a month.
That's it.
And it's at that point where less actually equals more. It's not more equals more.
Exactly.
So I see some of these people doing the squat, bench, deadlift days multiple times a week, and I'm like, what the hell are you guys doing? Like, this is not what the best of the best are doing.
Yeah.
Not even close.
No. And we mean no one any disrespect. It's not like that, but it just, there's been a lot of changes with social media and the internet, and even the term coach. Growing up, there was only a handful of coaches in the planet. Now you go into any gym and there's 10 coaches there. It's like, you're a coach? What? How was that honor bestowed upon you? Do you even have a team? How are you a coach? Where is the definition between a coach and a personal trainer? It's just like everyone's a general. Everyone's a leader, and there's no low ranks. It's like, you're how old? You've been doing this for how long? And you're a coach now? Really?
Right.
Okay. Well, let me know how that works for you.
Yep. And look, like I've been doing this myself for about 11 years now, onto my 12th year. And I believe like I'm starting to really grasp and understand the true potential of programming and coaching and technique work and all those things. And I'm still learning it every day. Like somebody will show up in my rehab and I'll be like, oh shit, I haven't seen that one before.
For sure.
Again, everyone's taking me to school almost every day. And, like one of my favorite saying, always show up with that white belt mentality.
Absolutely.
Right?
100%. 100%.
One of my favorite quotes from Professor Stuart McGill, one of the greatest biomechanics, is that I'm going to be the best practitioner the day I die, because that will be the day he's going to be the best of himself, because he has learned and accumulated all that knowledge until that day. Now, we touched a little bit on what you just mentioned about walking into a gym and everybody's a powerlifting coach, and I get to see that a lot.
Yeah.
Let's get into the next question. So what do you think of the current culture of powerlifting at the moment? Because I grew up watching you guys, I'm a sumo deadlifter, and I watched hours and hours of videos of Dan Green deadlifting, and I tried to copy that. Obviously, I'm not Dan Green. I had to adjust my technique to my biomechanics, but that was, those are the things that I watched. And powerlifting, I feel, was slightly different back then versus how it is now. But I would like to have, what you guys take on that.
Well, it's like now we have lifters that they think they're so good because of their dot score, and I'm like, I heard about this like a year ago. I'm like, what the hell is a dot score?
Yeah. Like
the only number that really matters in powerlifting is your total. It'll always be that way. So you have these younger guys that have a higher dot score than some of the best lifters in the world, and they think they're better than them. And it's like, no, you're not. If your total is not bigger than theirs, you're not better than them.
No.
And so a lot of things have changed in that aspect with this newer generation. So, and it also, it just back in the era where I was growing up in the sport, like 2013, 14, 15, those lifters back then were just so much more hardcore than they are now. Like it was just like a completely different atmosphere of lifters, not only during like the training sessions, but also the competitions as well. Just a much different atmosphere of lifters.
It's definitely different. And again, I mean, no one any disrespect. It's grown substantially, like a lot. It from being a smaller niche where it's just usually just big tough guys. It's now it's every form and walk of life, and that's great. It's great for the growth of the sport. But I think in the process of it growing, it forgot its soul, or lost its soul. It lost its roots. Everyone just walks in and they're instantly superstars, and no, it doesn't work that way. You haven't even paid your dues. It's like everyone skipped basic training and they want to be generals. Like, no, it doesn't work that way. You gotta start at the ground and work your way up like everybody else. It's not about who has the fanciest belt, or it's just changed. And I think a lot of that is influenced by the social media.
I was about to say that social media changed it a lot as well.
Yeah.
A lot of people just doing gym lists for the hell of it, for views and whatnot.
Yeah. Versus being a hardcore power lifter, you're chasing a total, and you're gear driven, like 100%. It's like, what are you going to do today? I'm going to eat and sleep because I got to train in 2 days. It's totally different. Versus I got, the first thing at some gyms, you go in there and they're setting up the squat rack. The first thing that's set up is their tripod. Like, what? That's the most important thing, is putting out content for social media, and you worked up the whole 2 plates. Like, hats off to you, partner. We got girls doing that. Like, big deal. What did you accomplish? But that's their coaching, and that's the way they do it. And again, I mean, no one disrespect. There's 1,000 ways of doing anything, and if that's what works for you, so be it. But it's just different. It's changed dramatically, like a very, very big change. And I've been involved in it for over 35 years now, and it started off as raw, then it got into the geared, and then in the early 2000s, it started shifting back to raw.
There wasn't any raw division when I started.
Yeah, we started all that. Like, we were really pushing the envelope. I did the first 18 years of my career, USAPL, no belt, no wraps, nothing, 100% raw, nothing. Wow. But I was doing martial arts, so I wanted to have true strength, not any type of superficial crutch. And if the knee wraps are giving you 20 pounds and the belt's giving you 20 pounds, but it's not there all the time, I didn't want to use it. I was just really trying to focus on making my body stronger. And then later on in my career, as we approached the professional level, then you got to utilize everything you can, because everyone else is doing it. You got to master the equipment that's available to you, obviously. But just see such a tremendous change in the way that people conduct themselves. Everyone's running around with their shirt off, and it's just madness at the gyms that are the so-called power lifters. It's just not the way it used to be. Not at all. And again, maybe I'm just an old dinosaur, and hey, so be it. But it's definitely changed. Definitely.
No, I think again, there's a lot of wisdom in what you just said, because obviously it's good that the powerlifting has taken so much interest in people, because
Sure.
People are getting interested in it, so the sport is growing. That also allows for a lot of lifters to actually make real money down the track.
Absolutely.
Like I mentioned, it's an expensive sport, but also with that comes the other side of thing, which is the social media side of thing. And it's the way I see it. It's, you can put up a bunch of trick shots on social media with your football, but there's only one Super Bowl a year. Either
Absolutely.
you win it or you don't.
Correct.
You can play as many football tricks on social media, get a bunch of likes, but you're not a Super Bowl champion.
Correct.
There's a difference between the two. But if that is your niche, and if that's what you want to do to make money, I understand that, because there's so much options out there. But that does not make you a powerlifter. It's a sport, and you compete.
Correct. Couldn't agree more. We said that, yeah, they're power lifters. Well, until you've stepped on the platform, you're not a power lifter. You're just in training, or hopeful, a wannabe for some extent. And coaches out there that never even stepped on a platform, or did it once or twice, and now they're next best thing since sliced bread. Like, I'm not impressed, man. I'm not. They've forgone everything. They skipped all the basics, and looking at doing things that are just, they boggle the mind. A lot of parroting. There's not a whole lot of research done into anything anymore. It's just everyone copying everybody. And one person did it, so it must be right. And this guy's on the internet doing it, so it must be right. And everybody
flavor of the month.
Exactly, and it changes all the time. It's like there's no escaping the basics, because that's why they're called the basics. And trying to pass them up and jump to a higher level before earning that right, no, it doesn't work that way. At least I haven't seen it happen. Again, like you're saying, there might be some new sensation, like you're saying, the new flavor of the month, and a year or two later they're completely gone, just washed up and gone, never to be heard from again. Just a splash in the pan, and it happens all the time.
All right.
Powerlifting is a lifelong commitment, and it involves a tremendous amount of sacrifice. You have to put your heart and soul into it if you want to be good at it. And strength, again, is the smallest factor in being a successful powerlifter. It's staying healthy and learning form and technique. 100%.
And like any sport at the highest level, it needs a lot of your soul. It's not just
God, it does. Yes. It takes everything. It really does. That was one of the quotes we had from the early years. What does it take to be the best? It takes everything. It really does. It really does. You think you're doing a lot? Well, your competition's doing more. It's always like that. The cream rises to the top. It just does. Be it genetics. It's always determination, hard work, and in the sport of powerlifting, consistency. And it's extremely difficult, if not completely impossible, to be consistent if you're always injured. So you got to take a look back. What's going on? You can't train if you're injured, and you're competing all the time. And if you're not putting up substantial increases in your numbers, you got to look at your programming. There's something wrong. I tell all my athletes the same thing from day one. I want you to imagine me as the biggest liar in the world, and everything I'm telling you is a lie. Everything. Prove me wrong.
All right. So
proof's in the pudding.
We're coming close to the time that we have.
I'm so sorry, dude. I talk too much. I know.
No, dude. This is amazing. Like I said, I think these voices needs to be heard, because it's the voices that are being heard right now are not the right one. Again, it's my personal opinion, and again, I do not mean any disrespect, but
same here. We're not disrespecting him.
This is how I have grown, and I have seen the result. I know the Lilliebridge method have proved results, and it has created some of the best coaches that I personally know.
Absolutely.
That has adopted the Lilliebridge method. So it's very important to get that insight and put it out there now.
I wanted to add to it, and I don't mean it to be arrogant or ignorant to add to it, but the Lilliebridge method has produced more all-time world records than every other technique out there combined. It's not just us. There's a lot of lifters following our programming, a lot of big names. A lot of the top lifters are doing the Lilliebridge technique. They don't advertise it, and we're not looking to get a pat on the back, but at some point in time, we'll come out with a list of people that we've trained, and you'd be surprised.
And I think that's something to be noted. It's not a fluke that you guys are the strongest family in the world. It has worked with so many lifters.
Absolutely.
And beyond that, for myself, it has worked with so many coaches like myself.
For sure.
Like, we have adopted the Lilliebridge method. Again, I come from a world of rehab, but I still understand and I still apply the method, and it has worked every single time.
Absolutely.
Not just in powerlifting, but any other sport, whether it's basketball, whether it's football. Understanding rest and recovery, understanding form and technique, and how to program, and understanding the loading each week. That has helped me immensely become a better coach. Absolutely. And I was fortunate enough to work with so many athletes and so many in so many different sports at national and international level. But it's I always attributed that to the Lilliebridge method. So that's why when I first saw Eric in person, I was just gobsmacked. I was like, holy shit, this is the holy grail, And I can't wait to meet you.
Yeah.
All right, so a couple more questions. Again, another questions from the fans. Any of the Lilliebridge family considering doing arm wrestling, given that is the flavor of the month?
Not for me, but you can speak for yourself, son.
Me either. I just do it for fun, just to play around. But no, it's been interested in,
Bit of an inside joke. I think Patrick would be very disappointed because he was looking for a rematch.
This guy arm wrestling all the
time. All right. So the last bit. In 2024, we are hoping to do a seminar with you guys because, again, I think this knowledge needs to be out there.
Yes.
And we would love for you guys to teach this, especially here in Australia, because I think at the moment there's a big lack of good quality knowledge. So we're hoping to see you guys next year. We're going to do it in multiple states, the seminar, but you, Eric, and hopefully Ernie Jr. as well. Now, other than that, do you guys have any other plans, like coming back to compete again, coming out of retirement? Any of those noises out there?
Well, I think my dad's done with competing.
Yeah, I'm just too beat up.
Too many
surgeries. Too many. If I was able to practice my own medicine at an earlier age, I wouldn't have taken on so much damage. But you got to push the envelope. If you're not breaking parts, you're not trying hard enough, and it's all trial and error. So how far do I push my athletes? I would never push them farther than I push myself. And luckily, thus far, and luck does still play a part in it, there hasn't been any major injuries, just me. I'm the idiot. Yeah. I'm the one who'll find out how far is too far. How far can you push, at what percent, and still recover? That's me. Everyone else I hold back quite a bit. And injuries still happen. It's still part of the game. It just is. They're unavoidable. Anyone that hasn't had an injury, they either haven't been doing it long enough or they're not doing it hard enough. You're fooling yourself. That's just part of the game. Pushing 100% means literally 100%, and 100.1 is too much. Something's going to break.
And
it just happens.
Something I tell my athletes is, like, whether you're using the term 100% or whether you're using the term 10 out of 10, there's no 101%. 100% is 100%.
Exactly.
10 out of 10 is 10 out of 10. There's no 10.1.
Exactly.
It stopped there.
Exactly. You hear people say, I gave it 200%. That's not possible. There's nothing more than 100. You're just fooling yourself. You've been holding back all the other times. So when you were giving it 100% before, you were only giving it 50% then? Right. Math is the one true science. You can't lie. The numbers are what they are. And you manipulate them to make yourself look better. It doesn't. It just makes you sound stupid. But okay.
All right. Eric,
I agree with
any noise of you coming back out of retirement?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how my body holds up. In my mind, I definitely want to come back and compete, maybe later next year. But it really depends on how my training is going. If my body's doing well and recovery is going well, then yeah, it's definitely on the cards to make a comeback. However, I don't want to do a comp by myself. I'm going to come back and compete against someone. So it'll be
Zaire.
It'll be picking someone.
Zaire.
Someone to compete against, because that'll make it that much better.
Did that sound like a call out to Zahir?
Now, I love the guy. He's awesome. He is
amazing. He is one of the greatest lifters.
An amazing athlete. He is so freaking strong, without a doubt. Just a great, great guy. The rivalry is nothing more than to push each other to become better. That's all. The internet kind of misconstrues it that their enemies are going to kill each other. God, I hope not. It's all in good fun. And the top guys never have anything bad to say about anybody. Just do your own thing. And if it just so happens your numbers are higher than someone else's, hey, so be it. But these are two of the top guys in the world, without a doubt. It'd be great to see them go head to head again, for sure.
Look, again, just like Eric, Zahir is another guy that I watched a lot of videos on YouTube, and just seeing him, watching his squats, like a big hype up to do my squats.
Yes.
And it would be awesome. And that is I think the true reflection of what a professional athlete should be at the highest level.
Absolutely.
Leave it at the platform. Outside of it, you guys are just great friends.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's at the competition in Russia, in Moscow, Zaire was helping to wrap his knees. I mean, there's no animosity. They're best of friends. It's you're helping. The competition is between you and the bar. It's not between you and another individual. That doesn't exist. That's only in your mind. If you beat somebody, it has to be same platform, same day. Taking your numbers that you did from a previous competition and trying to say that you're better than someone on that day, there's not a whole lot to that. I mean, the numbers speak for themselves, but it's head-to-head competition that is where it's at, for sure.
Maybe we live with that teaser, especially for the powerlifting event organizers in Australia. If there's a way to make Eric and Zahir happen in the same comp, that would be fantastic. That would be more for them.
Yeah, that would be. Yeah. Zahir's an awesome guy. If you're listening, Zahir, we love you, brother. You're awesome. Yeah. Zahir's awesome. He is. He's absolutely awesome. Just such an intense individual, man. Just moves weights like you just wouldn't believe. He's at 125 kilos. He's lifting what super heavyweights are lifting and beyond. He's just amazing. Just an amazing lifter. Just unbelievable and helpful and friendly. And just, we always say the same. It's what you do on the platform is one thing, but how often are you on the platform? It's what you do off the platform that determines what a champion is. And it's your attitude, how you treat other people. There's so much more to it than just the numbers you put up. And if that's your claim to fame and you bang on your chest how strong you are, so be it. But we're not like that, man. We're here to help everybody, honestly. The competition is against you. It's against them in the mirror. If you better yourself, so be it. If it lifts more than someone else, so be it. But information and knowledge should be passed on 100%. It's for the better of the sport and for the better of just being a human being. Help people.
Yeah.
Helping people is so basic and fundamental without the need for a return on it. Just helping people in general it gives great gratification. And seeing the smile on their face when they achieve something that you had a hand in. Just
Yeah.
if you were that individual that had the opportunity to make someone better and you withhold it, what's the point? What did you gain from that? We're always about helping other people, 100%, and seeing them make progress. Like, absolutely, man, that's what it's all about, passing it on.
And that's what we're hoping to do with the seminars in Australia next year, is pass on the knowledge, because it must be so gratifying for you guys to see the Lilliebridge method being used in breaking so many world records.
Absolutely.
Again, you're not doing it for a pat in the back or recognition. You just know that internally you have developed.
It's satisfying.
It's satisfying to know that that it worked. All those years of the hard work and the trial and error and all the wrong stuff to finally figure out the formula and to have it being able to work broad spectrum for everybody. There's without exception, the program works for everybody at all levels, from the beginner to the all-time world record-holding champion. The techniques and the programming is the same. There's minor tweaks, again, depending upon your where you fall on that ladder, but it's all the same thing. And it is. And it's extremely satisfying to see people hitting big numbers and being able to achieve their dreams and going forward in the sport. 100%. Yeah, that's what it's all about. It's not about increasing your bank account. Who gets into powerlifting and make money? Nobody I've ever seen. It's about for the love of the sport.
We hope to change that. So,
yes,
people actually
absolutely.
The recognition as professional athletes. You couldn't have said this any better, and we would love to finish that on that note. But before we go, did you guys have anything else to say to the fans in Australia, especially?
Yeah, absolutely love them, man. It's great. I mean, we love the country. So many great people there. Literally, so many great people. We're so thankful for the opportunities that we were given. There's some great people. Sebastian is an amazing guy. He did a so-go. Wayne, Marcos. There's so many. The Rookie brothers. Just Thomas Lilly. There's so many people that are just great people that we had such great experiences there, and would love to have the opportunity to do it again, to share information, and see after the years have gone by how much better they've become as lifters and as coaches as well, and how many big numbers that they're putting up with just little changes over time. Again, it's just the cumulative increases of following the programming and watch the results come out. We just want to say thank you to everyone in Australia that's helped us out. I really appreciate it, and really looking forward to come back. So if anyone has any questions or anything, that's what we're here for, to help. 100%, wholeheartedly, we're here to help. That's what it's about.
Eric?
Making better lift.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Yeah, thank you to all you guys. It's been an amazing ride, and thank you as well, Sean.
Yes,
and
thank
Ilya.
you.
Coming out there 2 weeks ago was awesome, man. It was amazing. So I look forward to coming back and seeing you guys.
Yeah, look, that was a dream come true for me, because, like I said, I've been a fan of the Lilliebridge, like especially our good friend Ilya, when he organized the thing and he told me that, guess what, Eric's coming. I was just like, what the fuck? I was like a 16-year-old girl who's a Justin Bieber fan. You know what I mean? Like, I was just gobsmacked, like, what the fuck? One of the Lilliebridges is coming. So, like, when you guys come next year, or the whole family, that'd be amazing to have you guys here.
Well, thank you. We're really looking forward to it.
Amazing.
Most definitely.
And this is not the last time we're doing this. We're going to probably do a couple more times. Make sure that people have enough questions and anything that we can help with before the seminars. That'd be great.
Absolutely.
Right. Thank you so much.
Here to help.
Yeah, thank you so much, you guys, for making time and giving us the time.
For sure.
Over an hour. We allocated roughly about half an hour, but I'm pretty sure no one's complaining. So, thank you so much, and we'll see you guys soon.
Thank you so much as well.
Take care, everyone.
Take care, everyone in Australia. Look forward to seeing you guys.
See you guys.
Thank you.
Bye.